Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video, and today I'm going to be discussing step goals, as you probably assumed from the title of the video. How can you use a step goal to facilitate fat loss? How can you use it as a part of a body recomposition program? Is walking really like a legitimate way to lose body fat? Hopefully we'll jump into all these questions, a few other thoughts I have, and some tips at the end for anyone who wants to implement this essentially right now. Another possibility is that you're a client of mine right now, and I made this video for you because I want you to be able to reference this and feel like you know exactly what I'm expecting of you in terms of hitting these numbers on a day-to-day basis. So let's just jump right into it. Firstly, what's a step goal? That may seem obvious to a lot of people, but basically a step goal is literally you setting a target number of steps per day to walk in order to basically tick the box as like one of the things that you're doing for a fat loss routine. So just to be clear, a step goal is just one part of like a fat loss plan. You've got to have your calories in check. Ideally, you would have your protein in check, and you'd have like somewhat of a grip on your macronutrient intake. And then after that, it really does come down to energy out. What kind of steps are you able to put in every day? Then we get into things like workouts, how many times do you hit the gym per week, sleep, recovery, all that stuff. But a step goal is simply put, how many steps are you walking per day? And given that I said per day, that means like the simplest way to do it is to literally set a number of steps to hit per day and to just do it and just to commit to that and keep it that easy. It really can be that simple, but I find that some people aren't able to do that. What do you do if you have a day that's like way above what you were supposed to do? What do you do if you have a day that's way below? How do you nuance all this stuff? And that's exactly what we're gonna get into. So one of the first things you're obviously going to need to figure out is how do you even track steps? It's not a big deal, and there are multiple ways to do it. I find that honestly the simplest way to do it for people who don't want to go out and buy something is to literally just use the health app on your phone. I've got an iPhone. I think I have like an iPhone 8, which is essentially ancient at this point in time. If anyone's watching this in the future, you won't even know what an iPhone 8 is. It'll be so extinct. But basically at this current time in the universe, iPhones have a health app. It's the little heart icon, typically on the home screen. I'll pop up an image of it right here, and you can see how I utilize it. Basically, all it means is that you have to have your phone on you pretty much all day, which means you become a pockets person, and it's kind of like a fun little term that I coined like with the clients that I work with. You're now a pockets man or a pockets woman because that thing needs to be in your pants in order for it to log steps. And it's really no big deal for me. And honestly, the cool thing about doing the phone is inevitably there will be times during the day when you don't have it on you. Like for example, at night when my wife and I are just kind of chilling out watching Netflix, like actually chilling out and actually watching Netflix, we'll, just have our phones kind of like on the table or whatever. I'll get up in the house, grab a snack, go to the restroom, check the mail. I'm just kidding, I never check the mail. Things like that, but I'm bumming around the house and I'm not counting those steps. So the cool thing about using your phone is that the number that you see at the end of the day is actually the lowest possibility of steps that you've gotten, which gives you grace to have actually done more and actually reap more benefits than you technically did based on the number itself. So what I'm saying is basically whatever number I see on my health app at the end of the day from my phone, say it's like 10,000 steps, that's the bare minimum because that's what it tracked while it was on my person. But I probably logged like an extra 1,000 just casual steps here or there when the phone wasn't in my pocket, if that makes sense. Obviously, another way you can track it is if you have like one of those fancy watches. Cool, good for you. Cheers to you. I don't have one of those fancy watches that I find works well for me. It's just like kind of a nuisance. I'm not really a watch person. I don't dig it. It's not good for my lifestyle. I don't do it. But if you do it, and a lot of people do, the Apple Watch is dope. Just literally use the data that you get on your Apple Watch. It doesn't actually matter what you're using as long as it's consistent. So I started the video by saying that the simplest way to keep track of a step goal is to do it daily, and I totally think it is. It makes things really nice and tidy, and I'll actually throw an image up of one of my spreadsheets when I was very consistent for a season of life. It's really cool if your goal is 10,000 and you're consistently, 10,073, 10,201, and it's just 10,000 and everything starts with 10,000 all the way down the week. That's just really, really satisfying data. It's very systematic and it's very easy to be able to look at the data and make a change, because if it wasn't enough to get you fat loss this week and you plateaued, you can easily bump that to 11,000 if you don't want to make a reduction in food, or you can leave it just the way it was and tweak another part of your life to get into that deficit, assuming that fat loss is your goal. Secondly, though, I do want to say, what if you do miss a day? Like, what if your step goal is 10,000 per day and you only got 5,000 on Monday because you had all these unexpected work meetings, things came up, life got in the way, what do? Just shift your mentality to a weekly average focus, which is what I do anyway. I just find that it's easier to think of it on a daily basis than a weekly basis. But simply put, if 10,000 steps per day is your goal and you screw it up on Monday and you only get 5,000, just shift your mentality to 70,000 steps this week. And the reason that's cool is because you never have to really fret one single day, because there's always tomorrow and the day after and the day after to make up for the steps that you missed out on Monday in this case. So on Tuesday, you would for sure want to at least get 10,000. Maybe you want to get a little bit closer to recorrecting that average. So you do 12,000. So you've technically made up 2,000. So you're still in the whole 3,000. On Wednesday, you get 12,000 again. So you've regained 2,000 more calories, 2,000 more steps. And on Wednesday, I'm screwing this up. Monday, 5,000, Tuesday, 12, Wednesday, 12, Thursday, 11, and then you've snatched back those 5,000 calories, 5,000 steps that you needed to make your average right on course. Sorry for that. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. And the logic really is that simple. As long as, at the end of the week, you'll be able to see like, this was my weekly average. I use a spreadsheet. If you're my client, you have a spreadsheet. And that's why it's so easy, because I just want to be able to look week one, did you hit the number for a weekly average? I'm not looking at it's like, oh, I see on Monday that you're 300 short. Shame on you. That's a silly way to think of step goals, in my opinion, because it's much more zoomed out story than that. And functioning off of a weekly basis, totally fine. Works like a charm. When I lost my 31 pounds in 2020, I did this stuff all the time. Not a big deal. Another way that you can nuance your step goals is to be aware of the fact that maybe your routine every single day is not totally the same. And thus there will be days in the week that naturally you get more steps and days that you naturally get less. So for example, in my current life, I don't work on Thursdays. And so that can actually usually mean one of two things. Either I packed my Thursday full of things that I want to do that I can't do on my work days, like make YouTube videos, and it winds up being a very low day, like 3,000 or 4,000, or I have an actual free Thursday and I get the chance to take our dog Kota for like a mega walk, and maybe I get like 12,000 or even 15,000 steps. So basically Thursday is kind of a rogue day that I can tweak one way or the other to kind of like massage the average for the week. Also, due to my job, Sundays I typically get a lot of steps without having to think about it, which is really nice. So I'll even maybe get an extra couple steps on Sundays on purpose, just to, again, massage whatever gaps I may have left during the week because of meetings. Mondays are kind of crazy for me. Tuesdays are kind of busy for me. You get the point. If there are days in your week that are naturally higher or lower, be okay with that and just plan for it accordingly throughout the rest of the days of the week. And just to show you that, I'm going to come up with, kind of a cool example right here. Check it out. You'll see that the numbers, although like the daily average, is supposed to be 10,000, you can see how you can actually be really different and get a 10,000 step average across the week and nail your goals. Another point that I want to tease out in this video that I think is really important is distinguishing between what I like to call life steps and like traditional cardio, or like life steps and cardio. And what I mean by that is life steps to me are just whatever happens in your life, whatever your life by default has you walking, those are life steps. Being in the grocery store, shopping, taking your dog for a walk that you would have taken anyway, just literally getting to work, parking lot transitions, all that stuff. Those are life steps. You're not thinking about it. They're very mentally absent because it's just you doing life, not really thinking that you're moving and burning energy while you're doing it. Those are life steps. Cardio, obviously, is going to be something that's like, I'm getting on a machine for the point of burning calories. Incline treadmill, Stairmaster, could be bikes. I think those are kind of weird for measuring steps. I don't necessarily recommend it personally. You can do it if you want. So primarily the incline treadmill. That's really kind of the big one. Or just any kind of like focused walking that you're doing with fat loss in mind because you know that you've got to get it done. And what is the correlation between the two? Well, the main point that I want to make here is sometimes getting on the treadmill and walking for an hour, even though that feels like you're doing cardio, and you are, if you actually kept track of those steps on your watch, you might find that you only got like 7,000 steps in that one full hour of walking. And so even though you might be tempted to think, wow, I really got ahead of the game today, if you just kind of putz around the rest of the day and live a sedentary life, you'll find that you didn't actually get to your 10,000 steps for the day. And so what I want to warn against is don't get caught up in the trap of doing a bunch of traditional cardio, thinking you're off the hook, and then kind of ditching like the reality that you never actually hit your step goal for the day. The fact that you were on the treadmill for an hour is not a free pass to hitting your step goal for the day. So I say that because if you're working with me, or if you're kind of taking my advice from the channel, you might be supplementing your step goal with cardio on the machine, and you'll be thinking that those are two separate things, but they're really not. They need to play together for you to get to that goal. So again, if you're watching this video because you're my client and you're trying to figure out what I'm getting at, it's this. I've given you a step goal. Your daily life might not be able to get that done for you. You might need to get on a treadmill. And if that's the case, do it. But I don't need to see you logging treadmill in your notes. Nor, if you're a regular person watching this who isn't my client, should you be thinking there's anything special about traditional cardio versus life steps. Are you burning slightly more calories if you're on an incline than flat walking? Totally. I think it's marginal, and for most people, diving into the weeds more than you need to get the goal outcome. But I did want to tease that out because I think it's important. Steps, wherever they're coming from, are essentially the same. Get to the number on the weekly average. I think another question that's worth answering on this video is, what's the magic number? What is the magic number of steps? And the honest answer to that question is there's a magic number. Bummer. There's a number out there that will get you losing fat, assuming that your calories remain static or consistent. But there is no magic number, one size fits all, except maybe 50,000, because then we'd all be getting shredded. But just to give it like some personal context, right now I'm on a 2,500 calorie diet. I am mini cutting for a trip to Jamaica. Should be fun. And I'm supplementing that with a 10,000 step goal right now. And so basically what I'm saying is, as long as I'm holding to those 2,500 calories per day and I'm supplementing it with the 10,000 steps per day, those two things are what are working together for my calorie deficit. Sure, are my weight workouts burning a few calories? Totally, they are. I don't count them. I don't figure them into the equation. It's just part of the routine. Those workouts are always going to be there. What I'm changing, potentially the calories, potentially the steps. So right now, 10,000 steps mixed with 2,500 calories has me losing about 2 pounds a week, which is dope because that was the goal. If that no longer becomes the case, I have a choice to either remove food from the 2,500 calories, probably not going to happen because I already feel like I'm eating like a rabbit, or I can increase my steps, which I would prefer to do because walking is fun. It's kind of mindless. It's not a big deal for me personally. So I could easily bump that up. Maybe the question you have is how much? I like to go in 1,000 step increments. I mean, obviously you're netting like an extra 7,000 steps per week. It's super easy, but basically the golden rule is if it's working, sweet. If it's not, more steps, less food, keep it systematic, and it can be that easy. All right, final portion of the video, I want to talk about a couple quick tips for just kind of making this happen and like putting this into reality. I didn't mean for the video to be this long, but you stuck with me until now, so cheers. Tip number 1, try to create positive associations with your walking. So for example, for me, whenever I do like purposeful walking that I'm doing because I know I got this step goal to get, I really like to take the dog on a walk, and I like to listen to basically fitness podcast, nutrition podcast. And to me, I'm now associating the pleasure of listening to those podcasts because I love to do that. It's a hobby of mine. It's a luxury. It's fun. It's entertaining. I'm learning. It's a good vibe. I'm now associating that with walking. So I know that, oh, if I do the walking, I get to do a fun thing for me. And so I'm creating a positive association with the walking so that it's just more appealing. It's kind of like one of those conditioning things. Pavlov's dog, you get the point. Condition yourself to enjoy the experience. I think on the flip side of the coin, I'm a little hesitant to just recommend people just bash themselves on like cardio machines because you can easily just start to hate the process. You start associating walking with this miserable, boring treadmill experience if you're going to be not creative about it or immature about it. So if you are bound to a machine for getting your step goals, find ways to make it fun. Like podcasting is probably the easiest solution. If you can read while doing it, cheers, do that. Just make it fun. Watch basketball, watch sports. I know some people who like watch The Bachelor on Monday nights, like at the gym, and they're just walking and it's easy and it's mindless. Do that kind of stuff. Like set yourself up for success with your walking and make it fun. Second tip would be to front load your steps earlier in the day. So I like to kind of do this system where I front load my steps and then I somewhat backload my calories. And that's just kind of like an easy structure for me to think about in my mind. But what I mean by that is get a head start on your walking for the day. So for me personally, when I show up to work every morning, I'm fortunate to work in a place where I have like a relatively big campus, and it's actually a part of my job to walk the place and make sure it looks pretty and I can tidy things, move things around. I can easily just spend the first 15 minutes of my day walking and logging steps. If you don't have that luxury, maybe make time for like a quick lap around the block, whatever it may be. Get kind of a head start on your steps for the day, because the worst thing ever psychologically and mentally is to look at your phone or your app or your watch or whatever you may be looking at 7 p.m. and realize that you're like not even halfway to your steps. That stinks. That's a burden. You wind up doing weird things like, I don't know, like dancing around your living room. It can work, but it's psychologically demanding. Front load your steps. I like to backload my calories personally, nothing magical about that, but it's fun to me to be able to go to bed with a good meal in my stomach. Going to bed hungry is the worst. Something that I do. Consider it for yourself. Number 3, if you're going to pick a low day for your steps on purpose, do it on a really intense leg day. So if you're a person who's training with a pretty serious body recomposition goal in mind, like you really want to build some muscle. I'm not saying you're trying to be a bodybuilder or hardcore about it, but you're just kind of in it and you want to do this right. You're probably training your legs hard at least 1 or 2 times a week. If you're going to have a low day for steps, put it on your leg day. Give your legs all the capacity and all the freedom to train really hard and not really worry about the steps. So for me, I do this right now. I train my legs really hard on Mondays and Fridays, and on Mondays my steps are usually lower. I think this week they were like 5,000. Again, my goal is 10,000 right now. I just set myself up to need an extra 10,000 steps elsewhere in the week. Not a big deal. It's happened so far. Something that I do in order to prioritize my leg training, because I just like giving my legs all the resources and I don't want any interference effect from walking, even as easy as it may be. I just don't want to mess with it. So that's another tip you could consider. Fourthly, this is my favorite tip because I don't know if there's a video about this on YouTube yet. So I'm wondering if I'll be a pioneer. Probably not. There's nothing new under the sun. But number 4, the tip is don't be ashamed to literally march in your living room or your bedroom or wherever you may be watching TV in the evenings while watching Netflix or TV. Like, it's actually funny how much of a rhythm you can get into literally marching in place in front of your TV. I remember one time last summer when I was dropping my 31 pounds. It was a Friday night. My wife and I were bored. We watched Super Size Me, had come back on Netflix. And I was sitting there watching this documentary about a guy eating McDonald's every day in this obesogenic environment and doing this experiment for health for the people, martyring himself and his body for the sake of the community. And we just got like 6,000 steps on a Friday night, marching in place. If you're not convinced that's the same thing, compare the two. Marching in place is actually harder than it is to just walk. You have to think about it a little more. You're not going anywhere, so it's kind of awkward. There's that. And then also, bonus tip, I actually like to call it skiing. Skiing for fat loss. Skiing, no, you're not really skiing, but it's kind of a skiing motion that I'm gonna make a totally different video on because I haven't seen it on YouTube and I'm kind of excited to throw it out there. I used it when I lost my 31 pounds again, another trick in the bag, and I think you guys will appreciate it. But TBD for another video that doesn't exist yet. If the video does exist, I'll have linked it in the description at this point, and you can check it out there. And I've rambled so much about walking and step goals, but I wanted to give everybody the full picture. Thank you for watching this video. Sincerely, I hope this video is legitimately helpful for people. Walking is seriously a fantastic way to lose fat in a non-aggressive way. People think that you got to go to Orange Theory or you've got to jump on a class at Wilson's. You have to do body pump or body attack or body decimation, whatever it may be. You don't have to do all that stuff if you keep your calories tight, if you prioritize your protein, and you supplement it with a step goal, you can get fat loss without torturing yourself. Think about it. If you haven't already, like the video. That would be just fantastically appreciated. I love making these videos. It's been fun. I am taking on clients right now. I had a couple people ask me last week if I was still doing that. I am still doing that, and I would love to take you on. It'd be a party. Summer's on the way. Some of us are feeling fluffy. I can help. Let me know. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.